Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a single powerful idea that might just change how you see, well, everything, from a tiny flickering candle to the entire global economy. It comes from Nassim Nicholas Taleb's incredible book, Antifragile, and it's all about how to thrive in a world that we simply can't predict.
Taleb kicks things off with this really potent image. A candle is fragile. A gust of wind, a little shock, some randomness, and poof, it's out. But that exact same shock doesn't hurt a bonfire. No, it energizes it. It makes it bigger, stronger, more alive. And that simple observation leads to a really fundamental question.
Why is it that some things completely fall apart under stress, while other things seem to absolutely love it? This is the core paradox we're going to unpack, and you see it everywhere, right? Some careers or economies or even people just crumble at the first sign of trouble, while others, they seem to use chaos as fuel.
So where does the problem really start? Well, Taleb argues it's in the very words we use, or more importantly, the ones we don't have. You see, our language has this massive blind spot. It's like we're trying to navigate the world with half the map missing.
Okay, really think about this for a second. We have a word for fragile things, like that candle or a porcelain cup. We get that. And we have a word for things that resist shocks, things that stay the same. We call them robust. But is robust really the opposite of fragile? Not really. Think about it. The opposite of positive isn't neutral, it's negative. So the true opposite of fragile can't be something that just sits there and takes a punch. It has to be something that actually benefits from it.
And this is exactly what Taleb means when he says, half of life, the interesting half of life, we don't have a name for. We're talking about evolution, about vibrant cultures, about groundbreaking art, all these things that grow and improve because of shocks and randomness. And when you don't have a word for something, you can't see it clearly. You can't build for it. And that, as we're about to see, leads to some really catastrophic mistakes.
And this blindness, this missing word, it leads us straight into what Taleb calls the tragedy of modernity. It turns out that our constant quest to make everything safe and stable often makes our world much, much more dangerous.
A key concept here is something called iatrogenics. Now, it's a word from medicine, and it basically means harm that is caused by the healer. But more broadly, it's the damage that comes from any well-intentioned intervention. Like a doctor who prescribes a powerful drug for a minor cold, and the side effects end up being way worse than the actual illness. This isn't just a medical thing. This happens everywhere.
Taleb gives us this perfect, if a little grim, illustration of this in action. The turkey problem. Imagine you're a turkey. For 1,000 days straight, a friendly human comes and gives you delicious food. Every single day reinforces your belief that life is good, that humans are your friends, and that everything is safe and predictable. Your confidence in this model of the world is at an all-time high on day 1,000, right before Thanksgiving. The turkey's biggest risk was the one thing its past experience could never, ever predict. Its sense of safety was the very thing that led to its doom.
And this is what Taleb means by the tragedy of modernity. It's just like those overprotective parents who try to shield their kids from every little scrape, every failure. Those trying to help us by stamping out every little stressor in our economy or our political systems, they are actually making those systems incredibly fragile. By preventing all the small, manageable forest fires, you just allow fuel to build up for one massive, uncontrollable inferno.
So, if our obsession with safety is the problem, what's the solution? Well, first, we need to finally give a name to this concept we've been missing, because once you have the word, I promise you, you will start to see the world in a completely new way.
And that word is anti-fragile. Anti-fragile things don't just resist shocks. They don't just endure them. They actively gain from disorder, from randomness, from volatility, and from stress. They literally feed on chaos.
This gives us a powerful new way to understand just about anything. Taleb calls it the triad. For everything, you can ask, is it fragile, where stress makes it break? Is it robust, where stress does nothing to it? Or is it anti-fragile, where stress actually makes it stronger? Think about the human body. When you lift weights at the gym, that's a stressor, right? But your muscles don't just endure it. They break down and grow back stronger. That is anti-fragility in action.
So here's the formal definition. Antifragility is the property of systems that actually increase their capability as a result of all those things we try to avoid: stressors, shocks, mistakes, failures. The mythical Hydra is the perfect mascot for this. You cut off one of its heads, and two more grow back in its place. It literally gets stronger from being attacked.
Okay, so this all sounds great in theory, but how do we actually do this? How do we become anti-fragile in our own lives, in our careers, in our finances? Well, Taleb offers a really simple but powerful, practical strategy to get there. It's called the barbell strategy. And the idea is, instead of going for the moderate or the middle-of-the-road option, you actually combine two extremes. On one end of the barbell, you're hyper-conservative. You play it extremely safe with most of your stuff. On the other end, you're hyper-aggressive. You take a bunch of small, high-risk, speculative bets with a tiny portion of your resources. The key is to avoid that mushy middle ground where the risks are often hidden and misunderstood, just like our turkey friend found out the hard way. Look at how this works with money, for example. A financial barbell could mean putting, say, 90% of your money into something incredibly safe, like cash or treasury bills, where you basically can't lose. Then you take that remaining 10% and you put it into a bunch of really speculative, high-risk bets. Now think about the asymmetry here. What's your maximum loss? It's capped at that 10%. But your potential upside? It's unlimited. You've surgically removed the risk of ruin while keeping all of the potential rewards that come from chaos and randomness. You know, this isn't even a new idea. The Roman philosopher Seneca, who was a huge influence on Taleb, understood this perfectly. He knew that success makes you fragile because, suddenly, you have a lot more to lose than you have to gain. The barbell strategy is designed specifically to counter this problem. It protects your downside so you can't be wiped out, while letting you benefit from all the beautiful, unpredictable upside the world has to offer.
Now, this whole concept isn't just a personal strategy for investing or going to the gym. Taleb takes this idea and scales it all the way up into a really profound ethical rule for how our entire society should function.
So, what's the most dangerous, the most unethical arrangement in our modern world? Taleb says it's not just simple greed or corruption. It's a very specific kind of asymmetry, one that has become terrifyingly common.
It's this: people who get to collect all the rewards from volatility and success, but then get to dump all the downside risk onto other people. It's when someone profits from the gains, but is completely shielded from the consequences when their bets go wrong. They make the mistake, and you're the one who pays the price.
So on one side, you have people with what Taleb famously calls skin in the game. That's the entrepreneur who risked their own savings on a new company. It's the ancient Roman general who had to lead his troops from the front lines. They own their risk. But on the other side, you have the banker who gets a massive bonus when his risky trades work out, but gets bailed out by taxpayers when they fail. Or the bureaucrat who makes policies that can ruin thousands of lives but faces zero personal consequences if they're wrong. They have no skin in the game. They transfer their fragility to the rest of us.
And this all leads to what Taleb proposes as the single most important ethical rule for our complex world. It's a simple but incredibly powerful principle. Thou shalt not have anti-fragility at the expense of the fragility of others. It's a rule that just cuts through all the noise and exposes the hidden injustices and the dangerous fragilities baked into our modern systems.
And that's the real power of Taleb's idea. It's not just a word. It's a new lens for seeing reality. So the final question is for you. Now that you have the word anti-fragile, where do you start to see fragility hiding in plain sight? In your job, in your health, in our society. Because once you learn to spot it, you can never unsee it.